What's up, guys? It's Stevan and I'm here to talk about an exciting topic, really huge news for the wrestling world. Basically, the NCAA Division I voted in favor of women's wrestling to be a part of and become the 91st championship sport. So that basically means that women's wrestling would now be a Division I sanctioned event, and they would now be considered a sport just like the rest of Division I. Before we get into it, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn your notification bells on. So we're making world-class moves, baby, in all of 2025. Remember, link in bio for ONEV updates, as well as link in the description for Patreon for technique, for exclusive behind the scenes of my training, workouts, full match assessment and breakdown. So let's get into it without further ado. Okay, so basically, I know there's women's wrestling's been a thing pretty much with at Division II and Division III schools, but it's all part of a different association. It's like NWCSCA or something that's like its own association where all the teams that have a women's wrestling program all compete in this, or sanction in this tier, regardless of what division the school is for other sports. So, you know, for example, Campbellsville's an NAIA school. They have a girls team as well that's really good that goes in. You're starting to see some other Division I schools have a women's team, like such as University of Iowa. Also, the women's team is in that division, okay? Even if a school is Division I in their other sports, the women's wrestling is not. They're in a different sanction with all the other women's schools. So, making this a Division I sport means there's going to be some division in which schools are going to have a Division I program, allowing women's wrestling to actually participate at the same level as men's wrestling. You know, having Division I, having a conference championships, and then ultimately having an NCAA Division I championships for women's wrestling. Now, there's a couple things that this would address, okay, and why I'm bringing this up and making this, you know, women's wrestling is one of the fastest growing sports in the world, which is great for wrestling in general, I think. But there's some questions to be asked what this is going to mean. First off, how are they going to have this tournament? Is it going to be something separate or the same as the men's? Are the dual meets going to have to be separate, or you know, how is that going to work? They're going to have to probably have another tournament separately for now. How exciting the men's tournament is every March, so it would be cool to have that be a part of it and maybe make it larger. They would just kind of have to maybe start the tournament a little bit earlier or do something in order to include the women's if we want to put it in the same building. If not, you know, I think having a separate tournament on a different weekend, I just don't know how the numbers are going to add up for fans, especially if, like, hey, we're coming to watch the NCAA tournament, I get to also watch women's wrestling as well, have more matches, have exciting matches. I feel like that's probably the cooler thing to do. It's just a logistical thing and how to piece that together, making the tournament more bigger, or splitting it up, kind of like how UWW splits up men's freestyle and women's freestyle and Greco-Roman, having them on different days, or even crossing over for a couple of days, so you're exposed to both styles, or both, you know, men's and women's while watching. You know what I'm saying? So that's a possibility, but that even gets things more confusing because about what I'm about to say. Women's wrestling is freestyle, okay? And so this is where I start getting excited, okay? Because if women's wrestling is freestyle, are they gonna have to change men's to be freestyle, or are they gonna make women's folk style? I have a feeling, because of how set the women's wrestling is right now and how you know, the trajectory looks from going into college, they're able to wrestle in college, training freestyle all year round, and trying to make world teams. I feel like it just makes more sense to have that, and it's going to probably stay freestyle. So I don't know how they're going to separate this up, where it's like the men's are folk style, women's are freestyle. And for some reason, the only reason I'm saying it, maybe would make sense, like looking at it popularity-wise, like, hey, shift women's wrestling to folk style. What's the deal with that? Well, everything that's always happened around the world, and there's meetings with the NCAA, there's meetings with the IOC and Olympic Committee. Everything usually changes for however the women's are doing it, because that's just kind of the way that they're including everything in with you know, making women's sports just as important and trying to do that. So I have a feeling that men's, you know, there could be some type of shift in the near future with freestyle being involved. So that's a question, and I don't know the answer. If anyone knows what could happen, let me know in the comments, because that would be crazy. I don't think they would share a venue having men's and women's college wrestling, D1 wrestling, if they weren't the same style. I think that's kind of out of the question. So if it is, you know, what does that mean for men's wrestling and folk style wrestling? Does that mean that this changes things with the rule set? Or are rules going to kind of change a little bit? I don't know, maybe meet in the middle somehow? I have no idea what this means, but yeah, some really, really exciting things for the sport of wrestling. I'm super excited that women's will become D1. I want to see Division I women's wrestling. This is going to be amazing for the sport. We're growing wrestling, a little bit at a time, and this is a huge jump for us. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that women's wrestling should change and go to folk style, or do you think men's should change to freestyle? You think that the national tournament should be at the same place? Let me know in the comments below, guys. I appreciate you watching this video, but big ups, world champs, and everything we do, baby. Let's go.